So tonight I will be singing the first 7 songs of the book, and I'd be honored to share the stories and just a little bit of the background. I have some new friends here tonight, or people that maybe not know the whole story of what I'm doing here tonight. And so I'd be happy to share a little bit of the background. I have a number of medical colleagues in here tonight. We got Ginsberg, we got Lisa, we got some dear friends that just have been a big part of this journey as a musician and a nurse, and it's this unlikely combo that has been a surprising blessing. And I feel like starting as an artist allowed me to enter into the world of medicine in a way that kind of allows for a creative perspective, and I've been able to share at a lot of medical-oriented events and clinical events to where that creativity isn't limited just to music or art, or if you're an artist or a musician, it's a perspective that can help with the navigation of some of life's most difficult challenges. And hopefully tonight in these stories and the book that I'll be offering, I hope that it is an example of a seed of that perspective and how anybody can achieve a sense of growth and of transformation through challenge and adversity. And so, the beginning of the book, the first chapter is when I got started down in San Diego, and I was working at this hospice house that is called Pacifica House, and it's a very rare place because it's a home, and people would go there to spend their last days. But I show up to work one day, and the Tijuana Rider biker gang was in the house, and they all were decked out in their biker gear, and I was a little nervous. I was concerned. So like bikers, who knows, they're gonna be bringing in all kinds of things. But they ended up being the most wonderful, caring people, and their brother was passing away very young. And I walked into this room where I saw this man, and I just felt this sense of peace that was pretty rare with this environment. And I would ask him, "Do you need anything?" And he would always say, "No, thank you, I'm fine." And then I kept asking, checking in on him, and he'd be like, "No, thank you, I'm fine." And then I just walked in and I said, if you need someone to speak to, if you're gaining from this experience things that you feel you need to share, I'm an open ear. And he just looked at me, and he gave this smile, and he said, "I've been waiting for you. Please sit down." And he shared that for his whole life he was an atheist, and he was, just part of the biker gang, and he was always very intrigued with the stars and the cosmos, and was always reveling in the mystery of what lied beyond this mortal earth that we live on. And he said that forever, his whole life, he never acknowledged the presence of a creator or an entity of, a creative force or a universe or a God. And he looked at me right in the eyes and he said, "As I'm sitting here dying, I'm listening, and I'm getting these words from what I know undeniably is God. And he's telling me that we're all part of this experience, and ironic that I'd be so amused at these stars that were so far away, but he's like, I know without a doubt that I'm made of the same dust as those stars, and it's just a matter of time until I return to those stars." And I shared it with the bikers, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh, he's never talked about that kind of thing before. He's always been an atheist." And and they were freaking out a little bit. And then we went out the night before he passed, and we went out to the garden, and he just reveled in the mystery of life and the vastness of this experience of being alive, and how we're all in these little human forms for only so long, and then we're off to the mystery again. And what he shared with me was so poetic, and at the time I'd wanted to start writing songs for people who were on their deathbed, and that were willing and wanting to share these impressions. And and other times I'd see these stories go unspoken and uninvited. Really, that was the main problem. these people want to share, but they just don't have the outlet or the reason in many cases, or they feel like they're imposing. But it turns out that these are some of the wisest people that I've ever met. And so he was willing to share, and so I went home and I wrote a song for him that night. And I show up the next day, and I walk into the room, and they greet me at the door, and they said that he's gone, he passed. And so I missed him by one night, and that adds a little something special to the song, I think, knowing that he wasn't able to hear it, but that in uttering someone's name or bringing their story back to life, they come into the room again. And I feel like that's a very important, simple thing that we all can do, especially around this time of year, and raise a glass or a plate of food that brings that memory back. So I'm honored to share Astronomo's song, I Wait for Words. Here in silence, I will stay in a place far from my birth. And though the road uncertain as it is, I will be patient, I wait for words. Little dreamer, little boy, long to move the earth, to see the wind hollow place, and clearer vision the humble learn. At any moment all can change, one can grow to countless words. Stand reflecting on what I've heard. So here in silence I will stay in a place far from my birth. And though the road uncertain as it is, I will be patient, I wait for words. I will be patient, I wait for words. Thank you. I feel like each one of these songs has a very special message that I hope can bring comfort to those that are currently facing loss, but also those that have yet to and need to integrate a certain metaphor into daily living. I think that there are times where we have those doubtful moments or those dark nights, and we need to be patient, and we need to listen and wait for the answer. And so it's a gift that Astronomo left for all of us, so I'm grateful. Thank you for letting me share it tonight. The next song is called Bridge Builder, and after I'd come back from San Diego, I worked out here in this little desert, this Antelope Valley, and I had the blessing of befriending so many patients, and I think that is the challenge of the job. My medical friends know that it's hard to get close to people that are about to leave, and I think that takes a different kind of love, a different kind of open palm to be able to let someone in and truly connect, knowing that in time soon they're gonna depart. And so I'd had many friends from these patients, but when I came home, actually had a friend become a patient, and that was a different experience that led to a very interesting gift and a very special lesson. He was a fellow traveler, and he was a guitarist also, and was in my youngest days, before I ever thought about really doing any of this work, he always encouraged me to go and just go and experience, be free to absorb the beauties of culture and the world, and don't stay too confined to a certain point of view or a certain territory or bubble. He was an advocate for expansion, and he, over the times where we knew each other over the years, like I would travel, I'd come back, we'd connect and tell stories, and then there just became this time where there was a silence, and I was a little thrown. I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going on. But as time went on, I heard that he was struggling with a brain tumor, actually, and so I wasn't able to really connect with him during that time, but I always felt there was something to be realized with him at some point someday. And so I sat down for this meeting one day with the hospice, and they looked at me and they said, we have someone who just came on board, and you know him. And I instantly knew it was him, like without a doubt. And so when I walked into that room and I looked at him, and there was this knowing, almost like, here we are, after all these years and after all these adventures, we're here together and facing this final gap and this ravine. And it was a real honor to be able to walk with him through that. And one thing he left me, he says, man, it's really ironic because this tumor doesn't let me play the guitar anymore because this arm was paralyzed, and that was his thing. Like, that was how he got it all out. And so for him to be limited and have all that inside, it really worked out well for me to welcome him to collaborate with the song and be like, I'll be your guitar, man. Like, you just let me have it. And so his message to all of us was, no matter what we do and no matter who we are, we're bridge builders. And what we create with what we contribute to the world with our lives is that bridge that essentially gets us across, but also remains for other people to navigate. And for him, it was his family specifically. They were all watching their young father and this husband depart very early, and he did it with grace, and he showed them that it could be walked with faith. And his main gift to his family was a reflection of faith, and how he trusted that the destination was definitely worth the journey. And though it would be a difficult, dark terrain, that this bridge was solid, and he walked proudly. And I was with him the night he passed as well. It happened to be Palm Sunday, of all days. And it was very fitting for his belief and his trust. And I feel like he left that bridge for the rest of us and showed us that it is possible. This is for Joel. So he's got to test the levels. It's a bridge builder. I know when I walk, the builder from his bridge has done his job. I hear you sing, it reminds me like a wind unto wind. Sure, it'll sting to pass the valleys echoing. There's nothing to compare, but I'm crossing a bridge to the sun on the other end. So I can't forget the builder is my best friend. Though I asked why I had to go and leave you all behind, I'm sure that we'll find a reason in this living grind. Though it may take some time, but I'm crossing a bridge to the sun on the other end. So I'll never forget the builder is my best friend. So I'm waiting for you with the sun on the other end. Yeah. So you never forget the builder is our best friend. Thank you, guys. The next one is about building as well, but it's a different kind of structure we're building. It's a backbone. And this song's called Build Yourself a Backbone, and there was this gal that came on to hospice, and they gave her 6 months, and she ended up living for like 3 years. And she was so tough, and just like, I'll bounce back, and I'll bounce back again. And it was amazing. Like, I admitted her in the beginning and saw her through, I think, 3 years before she finally passed. But we were able to sit, and at the time it was a local hospice out here, and we were doing the songwriting program with a number of patients, and she had a lot to share, and so we gathered the daughters, and she just laid it out, and the stuff that she went through and the amount of problems that she had and diseases that she had, it would have been enough for like 6 people. And she's just like, they just keep stacking it on, and you can always choose to let it crumble you, or you can withdraw and submit to it, or you can use it to condition your strength. And she saw this with every adversity that she had, an opportunity to embrace it and to utilize it and stack it as a pillar of her foundation. And you hear these concepts all the time in life. You hear these philosophies, and it's just been such an interesting honor to be able to see it represented in these environments. It's the real deal, and such an honor to participate and to hear what makes someone who they are, really, at the end of the day. And just to think how all of these problems that this one woman had gone through, any one of them would have been, I just imagine, like, oh, that would have been too much for me. Oh my gosh, that would have been way too much to handle. And yet, she said that as you take them all as they come, and you can't worry too much about the future and all the what ifs, but it can rob you of your strength of today, and to be patient with that burden that needs to be born, and do it with a sense of humor if you can. she had a wonderful sense of humor, and I think that humor can be a fantastic fortifying tool through the hardest times of life, and hearing her story really reminded me of that. And so this song's got a little sass, but it's called Build Yourself a Backbone. For Patty. More often than not, life gives you a bad shot. From the day that I was born, I've been pushing back those horns. It's a crazy world. I had myself some good girls, and the others that I lost, they put me on the rocks. Well, now, but you can't take those stones, along with those the devil throws. Get yourself some glue, stack them to the roof, and build yourself a backbone. No matter how you try, there'll come a day when you die. Some doctor comes along, 6 months till you're gone. You can bump it up a notch, or fold up like a cheap watch. You can take it like a champ, or let it kick you in the ass. Yeah, well, you can't take those stones, along with those the devil throws. And get yourself some glue, stack them to the roof, and build yourself a backbone. Get yourself some glue and stack them to the roof and build yourself a backbone. A good choice to make. And I'm giving you guys all a little abbreviated story, but the book spells out these people's messages much further, and so I'm excited for you guys to read them, but just a little taste. What is the next one? Trying to go in order of the book. Let's see.
Shall we get?
Would someone mind checking? Jesse, could you check on the appendix or the chapter section? I think it's Wolves and Doves. No, it's the tall one. I know it. Well, you just got yourself a book. There you go.
Yeah.
It's the tall one. Okay. I love this one. There was one day where I was invited out to the house of this family, and this woman who was on the hospice service had this like crazy purple spiky hair, and she just, definitely had a history. And she was so exhausted that she wasn't able to really share her story, but her children were there. She had a son and a daughter that were so attentive, and they were just there and watching, and just anything they could do. they were able to just share so much about the leadership of this woman and how she was essentially the guardian and the one that was always pushing forward and, you know, that knew all the street smarts and was able to save the kids from a lot of headaches and mistakes. And they really trusted her as her guide. And as time went on, you know, sure, her condition got worse and she got more and more subdued. And, you know, the discomfort of her condition that just really made the kids very afraid. And they were always looking for a way to help or to fix the problem or to, you know, to stop the pain or whatever symptom she was going through. But we all noticed that she had, well, I noticed they knew, it was their mom. But she had these tattoos of giraffes. And she had this big old tattoo of a giraffe on her leg and another tattoo of a giraffe behind her ear. And we're just like, well, what's all that about? Like, what's the fascination with this particular animal? And the kids were like, oh yeah, well, she's just always loved the giraffe, like ever since she was a kid. And we all just kind of thought about that. And we're just like, well, how interesting that such a leader in your family would be the tallest one out of all the animals on the earth. And just to think that she has this perspective that they could be present for and to be witness of, and not to just be concerned about the trouble and fixing the problem, but also honoring that she has this glimpse into a whole other world. And I shared with them a story of another patient that I had. It was another daughter with her mother, and the moment before she died, her eyes lit up, and she was just very withdrawn before that moment, but the moment before she died, her eyes opened up, and the daughter said that she saw this light in her eye, and she said, "What do you see, Mom?" And she just had this radiant smile, and that was it. And I'm like, she saw something. So I told the kids that, I'm like, just watch for your mother, and watch for these gifts that she may be leaving for you, and don't miss it. You know, stay present. And so they did. And they were very patient and brave for their tall one. So this song's called The Tall One for Miss McCracken. On the wide plains that rarely feel the kiss of rain, the cracks upon Savannah's face, the small ones, the rest of us will wait for sun. We don't know where we should run, yeah. The wild way, on lookout for the lion's mane, attacks upon our quiet place, yes. The tall one warns us of the poacher's gun. The better times have just begun, yeah. They're on the way. So stretch your neck, what do you see? Your head is in the sky. So we'll take the train. You take the lead, we'll see it in your eyes. Day purple lips, acacia stains. You shake them down so we can claim a long night. You first to see the morning light, and when it sets beyond our sight, yes, it's painted on your face. So stretch your neck, what do you see? Your head is in the sky. So take the tread, you take the lead. We'll see it in your eyes, your eyes. So stretch your neck, what do you see? Your head is in the sky. We'll take the track if you take the lead. We'll see it in your eyes. We'll see it in your eyes. Thank you. Yeah. Important to stay present, not to look away. The next one, she was a woman who was about 90-something years old. She was like 90, 94. And she had this little owlish look and these very big blue eyes and a very like concerned look. And she was very eager to share her story and very excited about a song to be made. And she's just like, it's so interesting that I'm leaving in such a time. You know, she was really concerned about what was going on during 2020, where most of these songs were written. And, you know, these people were so contained already by their condition, and then all the more so with the situation and the circumstances of just having to really be isolated. And so she was just like, I know that someday I'm going to look down and just be so amazed at what comes out of all this trouble and all this adversity. And she said that it's just concerning to her looking at the world and the behavior that comes from the struggle and essentially these elements of greed or self-interest and just, you know, the way some people operate under pressure. And she said, I hope that we can choose the other way. You know, she said, after all my years of kind of slicing things down and distilling all these experiences, she came to this conclusion that we all have two choices. And at the root of all of these things, it's either based in love or fear. And she said this feeding of one or the other is what can lead to a complete difference in someone's life and essentially all of our lives cumulatively as a planet. And she said, I'm hopeful that we continue to choose love, and we just every day in all the small moments of every day realize that there are these crossroads. And when I was hearing her, I just kept imagining this metaphor of this wolf and this dove, and how, you know, it's so easy to, you know, just throw meat at this ravenous wolf that just is begging for food, and, you know, sometimes it's all you can do to just shut it up. You know, these problems that are so present and that we have to try all the harder to navigate, but this quiet dove is just waiting for us to notice it and to feed it. And at the end of the day, you know, it's what you choose to feed is what grows. Just really is as simple as that. And when you feed one, you starve the other. And she said, it's not so complicated if you just continue to choose love. Fear will diminish. She said, that's it. And so that was her gem that she left all of us. But her name was Janice. And this is Wolves and Doves. one we call home, back up bags of rice and beans. I think they're picking bones, numbers at those vultures throw. It's hard to pick statistics to believe. Over in D.C., burning down our memories and setting fire to folks to set them free. How long will it be till we see good news on those screens? It looks a long way yet if you ask me. Seems this world just ain't the world it used to be, where we're taking on water from the sins of our fathers and running from a new disease. And wolves and doves survive on what they get to eat, so we just have to choose which ones we feed. We're all in this game, little links in a big old chain. Everything you do gets back to me. All these beasts will stay, long as we let them drink all day. What's it gonna take to keep the peace? It's up to you, and it's up to me. Seems this world just ain't the world it used to be, where we're taking on water from the sins of our fathers and running from a new disease. Wolves and doves survive on what they get to, so we just have to choose which one we feed. Seems this world just ain't the world it used to be, where we're taking on water from the sins of our fathers and running from a new disease. Wolves and doves survive on what they get to eat, so we just have to choose which ones we feed. We just have to choose which ones we feed. We just have to choose which ones we feed. Wise words. Simple, really, you know. She laid it out. I was just like, it isn't so complicated, is it? Just hard to see sometimes. And hard to do the work. Hard to choose the dove. What's the next one? Shadow of the Pine? Jesse? I think it's Shadow of the Pine. So we have a few more. This is the last three of the evening, if I'm not mistaken. By Shadow of the Pine, great. This song is probably one of my most played songs that I like to perform. I feel like I personally really connected to this story in a way to where I walk in on a young man who was a shadow of what he once was, and he was, I think, 43 at the time. And way out in the desert, if you guys know where Boron is, that's where this man lived. And it was a really hot day, and that garage was just churning with fans, and they had the sports up on TV, and everyone was drinking Mountain Dew trying to stay cool. And this guy just looks at me and he's like, "Come on in, hippie. Sit down. You the guy that's gonna help me croak?" And I'm like, I like this guy a lot already. He just, where'd this humor come from? And he had a particular kind of cancer that was brutally painful, like one of the most famous cancers of being the most miserable and agonizing as far as pain levels. And I could tell he was struggling, and that's why they called us. And just like, we can't deal with it anymore. And so I knew that he was really having a hard time, just suffering, but the sense of humor that came out, and this positivity that just radiated from this man, I'm like, I have to ask, how do you manage this? Where do you get this? being where you are now? How do you not just fold into despair? And he's like, you know what? Kind of goes off of the last song's message. He's like, I do have a choice. I could withdraw. I could surrender. And I choose not to. I choose to acknowledge my children and all my family and the witness that they have to this story and this final gift that I can give to him, or that I can give to everyone present. And he's like, that's all that's going to be left once I'm gone. He's like, this example is what they're going to be able to build with. He's like, I can't leave anything else. You know, everything else is going to disappear, but I choose to leave behind something strong. And so I was just very moved. And just to see that strength and that courage and that love in such an environment, it was very sobering for me. And personally caused me to reflect. I was like, well, how many times do I allow that minimal challenge in my life to shape the example that I'm giving to all of those around me? And how that builds through the years, and how, you know, this man wasn't just that moment, it was his whole lifetime up before that moment. And acknowledging that this is what a legacy is. It is the gift that you give at the end of the road. And he was a very stoic guy, though, and I could tell that, you know, he had a lot he was holding in. And he looked at me and he was like, you know, you got some long hair and you're wearing sandals. Are you a nurse or are you like a musician or something? And I was like, well, actually, I am a musician. I write songs. And he's like, oh, wow, you write songs? And he's like, man, I always thought that was so cool. He's like, I wish I could do that. And like, you know, I never was able to get around to playing music. Like, it just never made it on his list, I guess. And I told him, I'm like, well, I'll write one for you, and it'll be your song for your family, and you know, it can just be something that can just encapsulate this beautiful intention that you've shared with me. You know, it was just that much more for his family. And he was like, well, can you play me one that you've done? That sounds amazing. And so I played him one called Star, which I won't play tonight, but I'd written for a family member. When the song was done, he was weeping, and his family was like, he never sheds a tear over anything. And I was just like, wow. Music has such an interesting path to the heart, and it was beautiful to see that in him and how that was able to crack something open. And he's like, make me a song, man. And I was like, let's go. Onto the road. And I was able to be with him and his family through the whole next couple of months. But there was something that kept the song from being completed. And I always try to be sensitive to that. Like, the creativity has a way of allowing itself to come forth. And so before he died, he's like, you know, I know my song's not done yet, but I know it's going to be here when I'm gone, and that's it. And so the night he passed, he, to the minute, like, he had this little inside joke that he gave his family, like, the minute before he died, and they all were laughing and crying. And I mean, geez, I mean, to have that kind of like perspective, to just give him one little last laugh before the end, it was pretty amazing. And so they invited me to do this song as a tribute to him for his memorial. And we went up to Idlewild, and I was writing the song, and it came out in like 15 minutes. Like, I'd been taking notes as I knew him, and just kind of like assembling these metaphors, and the song just came right out, like it was just waiting. And when we got to the memorial, we were all under this giant pine tree. It was like one of the only ones out in Boron. And they didn't know what the song was called, or you know, they wanted it to be a surprise. And so the song was called Shadow of the Pine. And so we were all there in the shadow of this beautiful, huge pine tree in the middle of the desert. And And I felt him there when we were there, and I feel him now. And this is for Jared, and to speak to the gift we all have to leave behind. Would you look at that pine standing tall in the middle of the town? When he makes that shade, we all come round. Well, it sure gets hot out here between the summer and the sun, getting so weedy, sweating like bullets from a gun. But it ain't so bad, no, we'll be doing just fine, 'cause we got it made when we got the shade and the shadow of the pine. Now the summer's over and the lightning storm comes round. It struck our boy and he come tumbling down. Well, the bigger they are then, I guess the harder they fall. Sitting on top of his trunk, we feel so small. But it's all that's left, and you can bet we'll cry, thinking about the days when we had the shade and the shadow of the pine. Now the snow's been dancing like that lady's cotton gown. Lord, you know it's cold and there ain't much sound. Help me get this fire burning so the light is warm and wide. Send the weight of the wood that burns inside. Now we all come around with love and a little bit of wine. We don't got the shame and we got a thing. Shadow of the pine. We don't got the shame, but we got it made in the shadow of the pine. We don't got the shame, but we got it made in the shadow of the pine. Jared. This next one's second to last. I love this song so much. This song is really, oh, Whopper, I'll tell you, get your tissues. And one that we actually, me and my wife have taken to heart as much as we possibly can throughout this whole marriage and through this journey of love. It's part of our wedding ceremony, actually, too. So there was this one night where I was out with my mom and Alicia, and we were out, and I was on call, but just trying to sneak away for a little night of fun out in the little jazz bar. And like right when we sat down, got comfortable, and my buddies are starting to play, I get the call, and this woman had passed away. And so I had to bid the gals good night and head out to the dark. And as I drove, I felt this contrast of this moment of like longevity and joy and fun, and this other reality that we all partake in so often. And it's just, the life of living. And yet, all the time, everywhere, there's so many people who aren't a part of that joy and that living, and they have to walk through these shadows. And it just made me realize, I'm like, wow, these moments are always around us, and we're not always privy to them. That struck me. And when I showed up, it was a house full of family, and it was all very warm, and there was this comfort and this peace to the household. And the husband greeted me at the door, and he said, "Oh, please, come in, please." He said, "Come on in, and would you like to sit down, and can I offer you some pie?" And I was like, never been offered pie at one of these moments, but sure. And he said, "I'd love to talk to you, and I want to tell you something. I just really have to tell you something." And I'm like, wow, this is new. Absolutely, yes, please. And there was just such a moment of just this earnestness and this urgency almost. And as I ate my little piece of pie, he sat down at the foot of the bed where his wife was laying, and he touched her on the foot and looked at me and said, "There's no way that I could have ever imagined this night." He said, looking back on this love that I shared with this woman when we were young, I wish I could have reached into this moment and allowed that to inform me of how important it is to give love when you can. He said that he did his best. He's like, "I really did my best to love her as much as I could." He's like, "But sitting here now on this bed and seeing her here," he's like, "I would have given her flowers every day." And, I'm just mid-bite with my pie. And he's like, "Son, I just want to tell you that because if you love somebody, give her flowers now." So, this is a song that's very close to our hearts, and I think it's a very important meditation. I think people don't want to think about death. They don't want to think about loss because it's not a happy thing, typically. But I think it's very informative, and I think it can really wake us up and get us out of the blur of the distractions of daily living and really remind us of the preciousness of all that we hold dear and everyone we hold close to us in our lives and take for granted so often. And if you can reach into that moment just as a glimpse, I think it can help you navigate and center a lot of things that can throw you off the trail and allow you to choose to give those flowers now. This is for Oswald and April Mesa. You've heard it said, it's wasted on the young. All the days of dancing in the sun. How could we have known when we were kids that there'd come a day like this? Appreciate you coming out tonight. I know that it's your job, but eat some pie. 'Cause now I'm here sitting on her bed, and this keeps spinning in my head. Petals turn to ashes, days into the dust. So it goes for wives and roses and the rest of us. So give her flowers now. Dressed in black and wrapped her in a sheet. I'm glad my daughters helped me wash her feet. And before you head on home back to your gal, just remember what I said. Petals turn to ashes, days into the dusk. So it goes for wives and roses and the rest of us. So give her flowers now. Give her flowers now. Always gets me. Thank you guys. So the final song I'll leave you with tonight is the title of the book. It's called Eyes to See the Wind. And it was a song I wrote at the beginning of this whole little musical journey back when I was like 20. I was 20, so it was 35 years ago.
What?
I'm 35, 15 years ago. I'm a little older than I look, apparently.
So that makes...
That's what all that good French wine does for you.
Okay, so that
I'm
makes
a little
me...
spun from that last song, sorry.
That makes me 95. I'm 95 and Scotty's 105.
Oh man, you guys look great. Yeah, right, I'm really sorry. 15 years ago. And you know, we start on our journeys with no idea of where we're going to end up. We all have these plans and hopes, and you know, you try to stay open to where the journey leads you. And I feel that through this whole 35 years, honestly, yeah, I mean, since the day I was born, but these last 15, since songwriting kind of came into my life, I feel led and I feel guided. And I think that guidance is something that we can feel so strongly at times. And it's interesting to hear how some people give it certain titles. You know, they call it, you know, their intuition, or they call it their ancestors, or they call it God. And, you know, maybe it's a little bit of everything, I think. And I feel that as we learn and move through life, that these things that are always around us and were invisible at one point become apparent. And through wisdom and understanding of just what it is to be human, that we learn. And I think that's a beautiful thing to embrace. And I feel like through this work in hospice and creating something like music that's invisible, you know, it's not something that we see, but we know it's here because we hear it and we feel it. And, you know, we can't always trust our eyes, I think. Like this little baby boy. He wasn't something that I could see, and now I can see him.
Yeah,
I see him grow every day. 6 months now already. Hey, buddy. Hi, and this metaphor of the wind has always kind of followed on this journey, and how we don't see the wind, right? We don't really literally see it, but we know it's there by what it influences. You know, we see the movement of the trees and the waves of the water, and we feel it on our skin, and we know it's there because we feel it, and we see what it moves. And I feel like love is a similar thing, and all that we leave behind and all that we lose in life, we don't see it, but who these people are still present by their influence. And in all of us and all the people that we've known through the years and all the people we've loved so dearly and had to say goodbye to, we feel them with us because of how they still abide in us and how they still influence us by who they were to us and who they continue to be. And so, as we move along our journeys and learn how to really see the wind better, you know, this song is a tribute to being patient on that journey and open. Eyes to see the wind. I was born to this world with my visions, decisions, the journey of life calling me out. Will I learn how to dream with my missions, revisions, the failures and friends teaching me how? When I just couldn't get through the surface to service, a wall that was holding me on. I was touched on the hand that was nervous, assures us, and told me to start singing this song. I have eyes to see. So it's up to everyone who lived there heavy. When a young man made plans in a good world, the wood curled from carving and claiming my star. Now that spending my money on white pearls for nice girls wasn't healing the holes in my heart. Oh, the C-word will last past the burn, oh, infernos is something I'm longing to know. When a friend brought to mind the words of the eternal, well, now I know just where to go. So it's up to everyone who lived there heavy hands. I have eyes to see. Given to me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for receiving these songs and allowing these legacies to remain alive and well. I feel like each time I have the honor of sharing these songs, they come back. And this wisdom that they gave is it's an ongoing gift. And I hope that you all take these little moments and take a book and let these moments uplift you. And if you've suffered loss, may it comfort you and help you find these gems that are waiting to be found. And it takes time to find these gems, it really does. And if you've not yet experienced loss, let it be a roadmap, moments that you can discover and allow gratitude and presence to be a good practice. Prepare you for the inevitable. But moments like tonight where we all come together and share a bite to eat, and share good conversation and talk about the real thing, it's always important to do. And often we don't really take the time to do it enough. And so I'm glad that you guys all did. And honored to have shared this, and honored to share this culmination of these thoughts and these reflections to hopefully go on and inspire many more people. So thank you all very much. Stick around, have some more chow, heat up a tamale in the microwave. And I can sign the books if anybody would like an autographed limited edition. And I'd also like to invite everybody to, well, I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, feel free to just share your thoughts on the book, and I'll be modifying it before I publish it online. And I think I'll do the Amazon route. But if you guys feel like there's any expansion, or like if you think any one topic needs to be brought a little more forward, or anything like that, I'm totally open. So listen to it comes through, and thank you for being here tonight, and a part of my story, and now a part of each other's story in some small way. So thank you.
Thank you.